This presentation is about a growing number of students that we find within our classrooms these days, students that are ESL or ELL. This is a brief introduction of ESL or ELL strategies, tips, and expectations. Who are these ESL or ELL students? Well, ESL means English as a second language, and ELL is English language learners, so they are pretty much one and the same. These are typically taught in English-speaking classes, and an official definition of an ESL student would be students are those whose primary language or languages of the home is other than English and who may therefore require additional services in order to develop their individual potential. There are quite a few adjustments that these students will be undergoing. These four are the main adjustments that you might see within the classroom. First is the honeymoon phase. This is when they first arrive in the new place. They could be extremely happy and very excited about the change, especially those who might have fled from safety or worse conditions back at home. The second phase they might go through is hostility. This might start within 4 to 6 months when reality sets in they aren't in their usual home anymore. They are beginning to learn the ropes of the new place, but they miss the familiarity of their old life. They realize this place is not their home. They can't get the food that they're accustomed to. Things might not look the same. They miss the life of their old home, familiar places and faces. They might express feelings that they want to go back. You might see this characterized by complaining, wanting to go back, wanting to only be with those that speak their native language, rejecting the new culture, or acting depressed, irritable, or angry. The third stage they might go through is humor. They start accepting their new home, finding friends of the new culture and language, and come to terms with the old and the new way of living. This could be a very, very long process that they're in for quite a while. And finally, they might make it to the home phase. They start to feel that they are part of this native culture and accept they're here to stay. This might be years in coming, or for some students, they might never make it to this fourth phase. As teachers, we need to understand that there are very many different cultures of behavior. For example, a student might avoid your eye contact. Here in our English-speaking world, we show that as a sign of disrespect, when in fact, in their culture, it might be a way of showing respect by avoiding eye contact and not challenging the teacher's authority. Another example might be they smile when being reprimanded. This is also a gesture of respect taught to do to avoid giving offense in difficult situations. They might refuse to eat with peers because they're unaccustomed to eating with anyone but members of their own family. They might appear inattentive or refuse to participate in group activities when maybe in their culture they are used to learning by observing and imitating rather than just listening to a lecture. And they might fail to read silently. In their culture, they might be used to seeing and hearing reading as an oral activity, or they just might automatically assume they need to read out loud. Specifically within my district, we are 74% Hispanic. We have a migrant student population of 14%, and as a district, 44% of our students are ELL. So we deal with this on a regular basis. Here's a picture of our hallway at our DCHS high school. And understanding that we have so many ESL students, our district focuses on teaching these culturally diverse students by paying for us to get our ESL endorsement. We have continuing and ongoing education and in services that specifically focus on ELL strategies, and then our PLC meetings focus on sharing these strategies that are working. The following are strategies and tips that have been provided to us at our ESL workshops and in services, and I'm sharing information with you that has really been helpful in my classroom that were provided to us in the form of handouts at our in services. First, academic tips. Provide opportunities for English communication. This could be encouraging conversations within the student or from the student between the teacher and within their own peers. Use expressive voice, gestures, objects, and pictures. Link instruction to students' culture. Use computer software to help aid academics. Write keywords and notes on the board. Pair the student with a buddy. Read aloud and discuss what was read, and making group projects. Some do's and don'ts. Do speak slowly and use simple terms. Use different instructional strategies to get points across. Involve the students in day-to-day activities. Don't ignore them. And get to know the student. Ask them what helps the most. They will know themselves and how they learn better than anybody else, so ask them and get them engaged in it. Encourage them to talk and use graphics as much as possible. Don't expect an immediate oral response. It might take them a second to comprehend what you've just said. Don't ignore the student. Don't allow prejudiced behaviors to occur within the class. Don't ask if they understand. Push them to reteach the information back to you. Don't just say, do you understand? Because they're going to nod their head and say yes. Don't assess in the same way you assess the other students. And don't be afraid to ask other teachers for additional strategies that are working within their classroom. Teacher preparations. If you know that you have a ESL or ELL student entering your class and you haven't dealt with this before, prepare yourself. Familiarize yourself with the student's culture. Review their assessment records and prep with an ESL specialist from your district. Get a quick assessment of their knowledge of the grade level information. And acquire visual aids and other supplemental materials that you'll have readily available to help the student. Use of language. Provide additional wait time for students' response to questions, because once again they will be digesting it within their mind, and then deciding how they are going to respond in English. Be very conscious of the vocabulary you are using. Teach them subject-specific language. So, if you're working on math, teach them the language that they're going to need to learn in order to understand and thus produce mathematical equations. Simplify and repeat sentences before trying to rephrase them. Teach them idioms and their meanings. I worked with a pair once who was not primarily English speaking, and after teaching a dance unit, I told her that my dogs were barking. And she was so confused how and why my dogs had anything to do with it. And I had to explain that it meant my feet were bothering me. And to this day, she still laughs at some of the silly idioms that we use on a daily basis that other people that are just learning English wouldn't quite understand. Finally, clearly mark transitions between classroom activities. Assessment tools. Frequently assess and provide students feedback on a minute-to-minute basis if they need it. Do informal and formal assessments as you are going. Provide ESL specialists from your district these assessment reports, and check with your district's ESL specialist for additional assessment tools or rubrics.